Usually, when we think about emancipation, the end of American slavery, the first person that comes to mind is, of course, President Abraham Lincoln, the great emancipator, as he is known. On the other hand, some Americans refuse to give Lincoln much credit for freeing the slaves. As writer Julius Lester proclaimed in 1968, "Blacks have no reason to feel grateful to Abraham Lincoln. Rather, they should be angry with him. After all, he came into office in 1861. How come it took him 2 whole years to free the slaves? His pen was sitting on his desk the whole time. All he had to do was get up one morning and say, 'Doggone it, I think I'm going to free the slaves today. It just ain't right for folks to own other folks.' It was that simple." Well, despite what Mr. Lester believes, it wasn't nearly that simple for Lincoln to end American slavery. Why not? Why didn't Lincoln just sit down at his desk the day he was inaugurated in March 1861 and free the slaves? Well, while it is clear Lincoln did not like slavery, it was his duty, as President of the United States, to uphold the American Constitution. And the Constitution in 1861 recognized and protected slavery. Also, although Lincoln despised slavery as an institution, he did not believe in racial equality. He did not believe whites and blacks could live together peacefully if slavery was abolished. And until the very end of his life and career, he advocated deporting freed slaves out of the United States. Furthermore, keep in mind that Lincoln was an elected politician. He could not get too far out in front of American public opinion. Crusading abolitionists like William Lloyd Garrison and Frederick Douglass did not have to worry about getting elected to anything. But Lincoln did. It is therefore important to keep in mind that most Americans, including most Northerners, did not favor emancipation in 1861. Most Northerners were not abolitionists. Most were fine with slavery, so long as it stayed in the South and did not expand into the West. White Northerners wanted the West for themselves. Another obstacle to emancipation in 1861? The Supreme Court. Keep in mind that the Supreme Court had just a few years earlier, in its 1857 Dred Scott decision, ruled that Americans of African descent had never been, were not, and never could be citizens of the United States. Enslaved African Americans, the court ruled, were pieces of property, not potential citizens. And in America, then as now, private property is sacred. If Lincoln had declared the slaves free in 1861, you can bet that the very next morning the federal court system would have been clogged with slave owners challenging Lincoln. And, based on the makeup of the Supreme Court in 1861, Lincoln's emancipation order in 1861 would have been overturned by the Supreme Court. Finally, keep in mind that when Lincoln became president in March 1861, the fighting between the North and South had not yet begun. Lincoln wanted to avoid war, to convince Southerners to peacefully renounce secession. He didn't want to do anything to frighten Southerners, to push them any further into secession and opposition to the federal government. Any attempt to free their slaves would have completely undermined Lincoln's efforts to avoid war and permanent secession. So, when you consider everything Lincoln had to face in 1861, all of the obstacles to ending American slavery, perhaps the real question is not, why did it take Lincoln so long to free the slaves? Perhaps the real question should be, how was he able to free any slaves at all?